Now that we've had some time to test the new artifact, I want to dive in and showcase what I believe are the best artifact mods we've had since Particle Deconstruction. Season of the Wish offers build variety and takes the already powerful solar subclasses and cranks them to 11. This isn't an artifact where you'll be running the same 12 mods the entire season, because there truly are great mods that can be useful in different situations. Whether you're running solo, with a fire team, farming GMs, or testing new builds, there's something for you. I'm above, and if you enjoyed today's video, a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. Now, let's get into it. Diving into column 1, we have our standard anti-champion mods. I personally went with anti-barrier sidearm, as the new dungeon has some powerful toys to mess around with this season, including the likes of Indebted Kindness, which can one-tap barriers in PvE. I also went with Unstop Hand Cannon to take advantage of Sunshot and the extremely powerful solar mods this season, and paired it with Overload Auto Rifle. The only mod I was skeptical about was Unstop Bow, but after testing it out, it's actually pretty awesome. You can ADS or hipfire and still get consistent stuns even from distance, so it's definitely a viable option. And as always, feel free to switch these up depending on your playstyle. One of my biggest gripes with last season's artifact was how weak the second and third columns were, but that's completely changed this time around. As we head into column 2, first up we have Flame, Fiber, and Freeze, which combines solar and strand or stasis siphon mods into one. This can be helpful and is definitely an improvement over the previous version of this mod, but with just 12 unlocks and some very serious competition in this artifact, this is a skip from me personally. Next up, we have the first of many powerful solar mods this season in Kindling Trigger, which states that Radiant causes solar weapons to apply Scorch to unscorched combatants. From testing, this mod applies roughly 30 to 40 Scorch stacks, and when combined with perks like Incandescent, you can proc massive chains of ignitions on adds constantly. This mod is stupidly fun and insanely powerful, and I highly recommend building into it this season. Next, we have Blast Radius, which states that rapid final blows from rocket launchers and grenade launchers grant armor charges. With popular weapons like Forbearance, Explosive Personality, Apex Predator, Galahorn, and Dragon's Breath at the forefront of the PvE meta right now, you essentially gain armor charges by just doing what you're already doing, which is killing adds. You can do this constantly to proc weapon surges for up to a 22% damage bonus at all times, which is obviously very powerful. So if you guys are a fan of these weapon archetypes, I definitely recommend this mod. If you guys have watched any of my previous artifact videos, you'll know that I always ignore the enhanced origin trait mods. They just don't provide enough benefit over the other options to justify using them, so I'll be moving on to the final mod in column 2, From Whence You Came. This mod states that you deal increased ability damage to taken and scorned combatants. Without this mod, Celestial Nighthawk hits for 321,345, and with the mod, this value increases to 337,412, which is a 5% increase to your ability damage. It's nothing crazy, but free damage is free damage, and after all, the seasonal activity and Warlord's Ruin are filled with Taken and Scorn, as are 4 of the 6 GMs this season, including the Corrupted, Lake of Shadows, Hypernet Current, and Birthplace of the Vile, so this mod definitely has a place in your loadouts. Heading into column 3, we have Flint Striker, which states that rapid solar weapon precision hits or rapid solar weapon final blows grant Radiant. This is a 25% damage buff, and the fact that you can achieve this on any subclass this season is extremely powerful. Keep in mind that Radiant also provides intrinsic anti-barrier capabilities, which opens up a ton of loadout variety. This is the perfect pairing for Kindling Trigger, as you can simply get a few solar weapon defeats to proc Radiant and start scorching targets like crazy. This is an S tier ad clear perk, but also has value during DPS phases with weapons like Whisper and Cataclysmic, where the rapid precision hits will grant you a damage bonus by simply shooting the boss. This is a great mod that's useful just about everywhere, and I highly recommend using this all season long. Next up, we have Torch, which states that while Radiant, you deal increased weapon damage to targets affected by strand or stasis debuffs such as Sever, Suspend, Slow, and Freeze. This is a 5% increase that is stackable with other seasonal mods such as From Whence You Came, and it's nothing crazy, but if you have room in your artifact and want to maximize damage in team comps with Banner of War Titans, for example, it can still have some value. With that said, I do think this is one of the weaker artifact mods, and you can should probably skip out on this one. Heart of the Flame is the next mod on our list, which states that casting your solar super grants nearby allies radiant and increases the damage of your super for each nearby ally. In a team of 3, this equates to a 10% buff, and in a fire team of 6, this value nearly doubles to 19.5%. In a season where solar reigns supreme, Golden Gun, Blade Barrage, and Pyrogale Burning Mauls just got even better. And if you're on a support class like Well of Radiance, you can simply skip out on this mod and use your unlocks elsewhere. The final 2 mods in column 3 are both skips from me personally, as one is an origin specialization mod and the other is Wished into Being, which states that while your super is fully charged, ability final blows spawn orbs of power. After testing this, there was a minimal difference between this and our typical orb generating builds that we use with Ashes to Assets and Hands On. So it's really hard to justify wasting an unlock on this when we have so many powerful perks available this season. Heading into column 4, we have Unraveling Orbs, which grants your strand weapons unraveling rounds after picking up Orbs of Power. This is a perfect example of a mod that you won't have slotted all the time, but is extremely powerful when you're using strand subclasses. Unraveling is free damage over time and helps your ad clear tremendously, not to mention the fact that it pairs incredibly well with Hord Shuttle, a final column artifact mod that we'll be touching on later in the video. Next up, we have Pillars of Ice, which states that defeating an encased, aka a frozen combatant, spawns stasis crystals. Now, stasis hasn't been in the best spot compared to the other 3.0 subclasses, and they tried to remedy some of that this season with various buffs, but damn is this mod powerful. If you're a stasis enjoyer, this mod is absolutely for you. Pillars of Ice has some disgustingly good combos, including the Osmiomancy Gauntlets and Aegar's Scepter, just to name a few. You'll be constantly freezing targets, spawning crystals like they're candy, and pair it with fragments like Whisper of Fissures, Shards, and Chains for even more potent ad clear, grenade regen, and damage resist at all times. You can make some extremely powerful builds with this, and it's definitely worth using when running stasis subclasses. Next, we have Revitalizing Blast, which is easily one of the most powerful mods in the artifact this season. This mod states that solar abilities weaken champions and bosses for a short duration, which equates to a 15% weaken on debuffed targets for 5.5 seconds, but can be refreshed at any time. This means that this season's artifact provides us with a 25% damage increase with Radiant, a 5% damage boost against Scorn and Taken with From Whence You Came, and a 15% weaken from Revitalizing Blast, and we haven't even touched on solo Operative in the final column just yet. This level of solo damage stacking is absolutely game-changing, and the fact that you don't have to rely on other debuffs in a fire team will be nice to have this season. Next up, we have Overload Rocket, which will likely be one of the most popular artifact mods in both GMs and Lost Sectors this season. Since overloads can frustrate players with constant teleports, they actually made this mod extremely forgiving. All you have to do is damage an overload with the AoE blast radius of a rocket or the Wolfpack rounds that you get from Galley, and it stuns extremely consistently. Rockets are already popular in GMs, and you're simply eliminating a step of stunning a champion before killing them with this mod. It's also worth noting that Overload Rocket grants an astounding 80% damage increase against Overload champions, so they'll be getting absolutely cooked this season. The last mod in column 4 is Dragon's Bite, which states that breaking a combatant's shield with a strand or stasis weapon has a chance to suspend or freeze that combatant. I like what Bungie was trying to do here by making kinetic weapons more viable against enemy shield types, but this procced on just one of 6 enemy shields that I destroyed. There are a few core issues with this mod, and the first is obvious. The low chance just simply isn't good enough. And 2, it takes a while to break non-matching elemental shields, so there's a high likelihood that your teammates will get the final shield break and completely negate the perk. If this mod was to return in the future, I'd like to see it grant bonus damage against non-matching elemental shields and give it a higher chance to suspend or freeze by default. But for now, it's a solid pass, and you can feel free to place your artifact mods elsewhere. The final column of the artifact is typically where the best mods reside, and it's no different this time around. First up, we have Hord Shuttle, which states that damaging unraveled targets with a weapon occasionally spawns threadlings. If you guys are Strand enjoyers, this mod is absolutely a must-have. Pair this with unraveling orbs from column 4, and your weapons truly become a horde of Strand effects that add clear for you. Simply pick up an orb of power, proc unraveling rounds, and let the perk do the rest. Though there are several extremely powerful mods in column 5, Hord Shuttle is absolutely top tier, especially if you regularly use weapons like Quicksilver Storm and Rufus's Fury. Next up, we have Hail the Storm, which states that shattering encased targets and stasis crystals deals increased damage. Shattering stasis crystals also releases shards of ice that damage and slow combatants. This is a 25% buff to shatter damage and actually stacks with Whisper of Fissures for greater bonuses. The AoE slow and shatter damage this provides is also nice to have, so if you love stasis and want to absolutely obliterate Riven this season, Hail of the Storm is for you. But in most cases, I'd say that there are better mods to pick from in column 5. Next, we have Rays of Precision, which in my opinion is an absolutely S-tier mod that will never come off this season. It states that while radiant, Solar Precision final blows cause combatants to ignite. Yeah, you heard that right, they ignite. No more having to build up ignitions, they just happen on precision final blows and do insane amounts of damage on virtually no cooldown. This perk can kill entire groups of enemies with a single bullet and makes Kindling Trigger and Flint Striker from earlier in the artifact even better. This mod will make solar weapons feel so good during Season of the Wish and so bad once this artifact is gone. So if you guys want to have fun with solar this season, this mod is an absolute must-have. The next mod on our list is Solo Operative, which is a must-have pick in all solo loadouts this season. This mod states that while you're the only member of your fire team, you deal increased damage to all combatants. It's that simple. A flat 15% damage buff to your supers, abilities, and weapons at all times. And the best part is that this stacks with all other damage mods we've discussed today, so yeah, simply equip this mod and profit. And last but not least, we have Argent Ordinance, which states that firing a rocket launcher consumes 1 stack of armor charge, granting increased damage and reload speed until you stow your rocket. This is a flat 15% damage buff yet again that will hit for the same damage increase regardless of your armor charge stacks. This means that at 3 stacks, you'll deal the same 15% damage bonus as you would at 2 stacks, so on and so forth. This mod also stacks on top of Solo Operative, Weapon Surges, and Radiant, allowing you to put up insane damage numbers with rockets this season. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and that it helped you figure out which mods are best for you. These take a ton of time to put together, so a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. And with that said, that's it from me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace!